For me, it was a very inspirational time. It was a very creative time.
Mm-hmm.
It was exciting. I felt like I was doing new stuff. I felt like I was breaking ground, and it was a wonderful period. I mean, I loved all the periods of my competitive surfing, all the way up to when I retired in 1990. But I think the experiences tube riding and the experiences, mid-70s going hard at backside pipe, I think those were maybe the most creative parts of my surfing.
Are you ready, boys? Start swimming.
That's Shaun Tomson. I'm Jamie Brisick. This is Soundings, brought to you by the Surfer's Journal. The Journal is a member-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from Costa Sunglasses, FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Patagonia, Rainbow Sandals, Vans, and Yeti. More like a book than a magazine, the Journal delivers 136 pages of independent storytelling every 8 weeks, covering the people, culture, travel, and art of surfing. To learn more and to subscribe, please visit surfersjournal.com. Born in 1955, hailing from Durban, South Africa, Shaun Tomson is many things. A world champion, environmentalist, actor, author, businessman, statesman, motivational speaker, husband, and father. Shaun was one of the architects of pro surfing as we know it today. He won the IPS World title in 1977. He did 14 seasons on the World Tour and won 12 events, among them the 1975 Pipeline Masters, in which he made giant leaps for backside tube riding. He starred in many 70s and 80s surf films, among them Free Ride, where we see him pumping through the barrel at Backdoor and Off the Wall, an entirely new thing at the time. But his virtuosic surfing was only part of the equation. Shaun carried himself with grace, dignity, and aplomb. He was absurdly handsome and appeared in Calvin Klein ads. He was business-minded, and in the late 1970s launched a clothing label, Instinct, and in 1985 a surf shop, Surfbeat, in Santa Monica. I was a team rider and got to know Shaun and his family, including his cousin, Michael Tomson, who founded Gotcha. The Tomsons were deeply plugged into all facets of the surf experience. In fact, Shaun, a couple other team riders, and myself appeared on Good Morning America, testament to Shaun's entrepreneurial mind and his desire to share surfing with the unconverted. He holds a BA in business finance. He played a surf journalist in the 1998 film In God's Hands. In 2002, he was appointed chairman of the National Advisory Board for the Surfrider Foundation. That same year, he was given the Environmentalist of the Year award by SEMA. The list of achievements just goes on and on. Shaun won the Surfer Magazine Readers' Poll in 1978 and was inducted into the South African Sports Hall of Fame that same year. In 1991, Australia's Surfing Life magazine named him as the world's all-time best tube rider. In 1995, he was inducted into the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, and in 1997, the Huntington Beach Surfing Walk of Fame. Shaun co-produced Bustin Down the Door, a 2008 documentary film chronicling the rise of pro surfing in the early 70s. He is the author of the best-selling Surfer's Code, 12 Simple Lessons for Riding Through Life. While it may sound perpetually rosy for Shaun, it wasn't. In 2006, he and his wife Carla lost their only son, Matthew, which we get into here. So, Shaun, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's great to be on, James. I've known you for so long. I used to sponsor you in your youth, and it's wonderful that we're connecting again after so many years.
It's so great. And, so that would have been in the mid to late 80s, but what you don't realize is that I knew you long before that. And in probably, I think it was 1982, I had a job at Val's Surf Shop in Woodland Hills, and there was a big poster on the wall. I think it was an O'Neill poster, and you were on it, and you'd signed it, and you wrote, "Speed is the key, power is the essence, and the tube is the truth." And I remember looking up at that going, this is so great. And then maybe earlier than that, there was Free Ride, and there was that great quote from you about Time is definitely expanded when you're in the tube, but your relationship with the tube, and we're looking at a picture of you in the barrel and off the wall right here. You got in there with the tube and talked to the tube, Shaun.
Talking to the tube, that's a great expression. I loved it. I loved tube riding. I grew up at this beach called the Bay of Plenty in South Africa, and it was right across the road from our home. And when I first started out with my brother and my cousin Michael, we were just riding the whitewater. We didn't realize what was out at the back. And then as I started to improve as a surfer, I noticed there were these incredible barrels. And I'd been watching the guys in Australia at Surfing Kira and Burley. And then I'd been watching, of course, Jerry Lopez and Rory Russell and Jackie Dunn. And then I discovered this wave off the jetty that was longer. I mean, when the Bay of Plenty was really grinding, you could get a 15-second barrel. And it was a thundering, technical, complicated barrel. So I think from a very young age, from about 16, I developed this relationship. And I really felt that I could really slow time down. I think it's an aspect of peak experience. Like, the psychologists call it riding in a state of flow. And I really felt I could even connect with the wave. And it was a very special type of feeling, that feeling when you actually deeply connected to nature. And yes, people have write about surfing and spirituality and getting connected to nature. But I really felt that riding inside those tubes at the Bay of Plenty, I could get really connected to time and space. It was an amazing feeling.
What would, if you were to try to articulate it, what was the draw of being in the tube to you? What made it so attractive?
So it was a number of things. One was the uncertainty, but the feeling of control at the same time. One was the perspective that you have on life. It's so different. Everything funnels down to this sort of compressing endpoint. And then the experience itself. When I used to ride these tubes at the Bay of Plenty, and these on some big serious days, 8 to 10, but a really powerful wave, easily as powerful as Backdoor, and the compressed air would build up and build up and build up and build it. And then it would blast you. But it would blast you in such a way that it would actually lift your board off the surface of the water. So you were flying through space, and sometimes it used to become very dark. These were like sometimes chocolatey brown tubes from a storm. So it was very, very dark, and you'd just be jamming for that light at the end of the horizon. And it was very much, it was like a metaphor for riding through life, that experience of life kind of closing in at you, and there's only one way out. There's only that one escape. So those experiences were just so deep and profound. And then sometimes you'd be so far back that the spit would blast past you, and then sometimes it would blast back at you. And I've never experienced that in any other wave, that you'd actually get a blast of spray coming in at you as opposed to coming from behind you. And then there was just this challenge aspect, and wanting to take off deeper, wanting to take off on these impossible sections. And, today there's a lot of great tube riders in the world. What happens with John Florence, or what happens with a young guy like Griffin Colapinto on Wednesday, everyone's seeing it on Wednesday afternoon. So the level has risen. But in those days, not many guys were great tube riders. Even some of the top surfers in the world, they just weren't that good in the tube. So I was lucky. I had this connectivity, this commitment, and this deep physical and I think emotional relationship with a tube. So I took what I'd learned at the Bay of Plenty straight to the tubes at Off the Wall, Backdoor, Pipeline. Even though Bay of Plenty was a right-hander, you still get the feeling for the tube and it really helped me with riding backside at Pipeline. The technique is different, but the experience and that intensity and that ability to slow down time. And when I was surfing at my very best on these amazing boards that Spider Murphy had made for me, and these were very advanced boards, single to double concaves in 1975, so I could weight up my front foot and the boards would fly. And when I watched old movies of myself surfing, the boards looked short because the distance between my front foot and the nose was no different to the distance between the front foot and nose of what guys are riding today, because I was riding far forward. Mm-hmm. And the boards had wide pointed about 3¼ inches up. So I was riding far forward, and I had that very narrow pintail, 11-inch pintail with like a 8¼ inch fin with a 6-inch base, 6 inches up from this super narrow tail. So the boards were rock solid. I love this. I love the rock solid aspect of my boards. I like them to be consistent, and I could just sit and ride on that foam ball. Felt like for days sometimes, and the boards never would cavitate. They'd never slide out. I could just set the fin and then ride through this turbulence of the foam ball. And if I need to accelerate, jam that forward turn up on the front foot and get the acceleration from the concave. So I think I had the mindset, I had the equipment to do different stuff inside the tube. Mm-hmm. I think that I followed my own path in the tube, certainly. Yes, I'd seen what the great guys are doing, but it was always a straight line drive. It was like shoot the arrow and watch that arrow fly. And I wanted to go around corners. I wanted to accelerate. I wanted to prolong the experience. So I just had a different technique. And then back in those days too, I had the advantage of, in those days, no leg ropes. I had the advantage of being the only guy that could pull out through the back of the wave. I mean, I invented that maneuver. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of guys, were a bit nervous of losing their boards. And I knew that no matter where I was on the wave, I'd always be able to jam out the back. And then as the technique developed, and, look at old movies from even as far back as 1975, I developed the technique to come out the side of the wave. Today they call it, I hate that expression, coming out the doggy door. But it was really, for me, it was a very inspirational time. It was a very creative time. Mm-hmm. It was exciting. I felt like I was doing new stuff. I felt like I was breaking ground, and it was a wonderful period. I mean, I loved all the periods of my competitive surfing, all the way up to when I retired in 1990. But I think the experiences tube riding and the experiences, mid-70s going hard at backside pipe, I think those were maybe the most creative parts of my surfing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The thing you talked about, kind of driving through the tube, prior to that, the tube was such a kind of stiff, you'd sort of pick your line and then just stay there. And I remember watching the films from that period, and you were pumping in the barrel in a really low center of gravity in a way that no one did at that time.
Yeah, it was very different. I think it was very unique. Maybe at the time I didn't realize how unique it was, and it took. I remember when Bill Delaney first showed me some initial cuts from Freeride, what was to become Freeride, because he didn't have a name for the film yet. And this was he had this little shack on the beach there with his wife Tori, and he showed me some high speed footage that Dan Merkel had shot at 400 frames per second on like a Millikan gun camera, and I could really see that what I was doing was pretty much instinctive, and I saw it, and then I just sort of developed it further. But it's interesting how back then my creative tube riding, how it merged with business. It's funny that something so soulful and spiritual can connect with business. And when it came time for me to start a business, I was very competitive with Mark Thompson, and like Mark, 78 started gotcha, 79. I'm going to go up against him. 79, I started.
And Mike's your cousin.
Mike Thompson, my cousin,
Yes,
yeah. I thought, like, what really connects me? What's sort of the essence of my surfing? Like, what's the best part of my surfing experience? Tube riding.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best part of the tube riding experience when you operating in that state of flow? I called it the inner rhythm. When I sometimes if I ride a tube with my eyes closed, and I just feel like I'm absolutely in rhythm with the wave. And then I thought the best tubes happen when your mind is clear,
Mm-hmm.
and you're operating on instinct. There's no thought. It's almost like it's not just reactivity, but the timing is so fast, and that's why it seems to be slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
You have this perception of slowness because you're processing at such a high level, and I think I could slow my mind down. I think I could slow my heart rate down. I could breathe inside the tube, and it was a sublime experience.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, it was, and to this day too. You get in a tube, and it's just this beautiful experience. I mean, I think a lot of people today they filming it. They're filming it from the inside out, and they got these cameras in their mouths, and I'm going, wow, it's kind of like you're defiling the experience.
Mm-hmm,
it's like, what are you like filming yourself making love to someone? It's just too much. It's narcissistic tendency taken to an exponential level. I think that certain things must be experienced rather than just be photographed. I think it takes away from that experience. It's just like, take the camera out your mouth, pal. Throw that pole away. Take off the mount off your board. Just be,
just
be clean.
Yeah,
make it not about it's sort of it's just too narcissistic for me. I like to strip your board off and get back to the basics, pal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But interestingly, I guess playing devil's advocate, I think probably some of the people doing that today are trying to just perpetuate, trying to keep surfing, basically, trying to create an income out of it, which segues over to that period of you off the wall, the time we're talking about. It's really kind of the birth of professional surfing as we know it today. And I'm sure many of our listeners saw Bustin Down the Door, but that time, what was that like? I mean, it was an unpaved road, right? It hadn't been developed. There were piecemeal contests, but the idea of bringing the IPS to this organized thing that would end with a world champion and trying to, earn kind of mainstream respectability, because I think surfers were at that time still regarded as hippies and stoners. And what was it like to be in the mix of that?
Yeah, I know it was a great period from that aspect, and there was just this wonderful camaraderie between all of us, especially the Aussies and South Africans. There was a wonderful camaraderie. Yes, we had we had a wonderful time with the Hawaiian guys, but we came from the same sort of post-colonial culture, same type of schooling, same type of upbringing, same type of obsession with sport, and I think for us, the dream was, how can we perpetuate the surf lifestyle? How can we get paid to do something we love? And I thought there was nothing more noble than that, to get paid from your passion. And I think we came together in a way, even though we were like the fiercest competitors, and we were like just unbelievable rivals. The rivalry with Rabbit, MR, PT, Ian, myself, we were great rivals. But we could see that there was a possibility of not recreating surfing, but creating another aspect to surfing. Mm-hmm. Certainly, that's what it was. It was like, pro surfing is like a piece that's sort of added on to surfing art, lifestyle, culture, sport, whatever you want to call it. But we sort of just added this piece on that was a way to a way for us to make that income. And also, I think that it fundamentally changed the perception that people had of surfing. Like you say, surfing was dopers, drug smugglers, hippies, dole bludgers. I was always proud to be a pro surfer. I mean, I always thought we were as good as golfers, we were as good as Formula One drivers, we were as good as football, baseball, basket players. It's only Formula One that's risking their lives like we are. And like you can put your foot on the brake, there's no brake in surfing. You're out there in 20, 25 foot surfer, you're out there 15 foot low tide, second reef pipe. It's definitely life and death. But we had the vision that was perhaps bigger than the reality. Well, our vision was definitely bigger than reality. And it's really only been in the last few years that there's been this realization that the mainstream will never, ever, no matter how much we change around the judging system or the competition, they'll never accept surfing. Mm-hmm. And surfing will always be a sport that is only popular. I'm talking about professional surfing. It's only a sport that's popular to surfers. Mm-hmm. That's it. There's one audience for the WSL webcast, broadcast, and that's surfers. And we thought that we'd be able to bust through into the mainstream and be as popular as Formula One drivers and tennis players, as popular as Borg and McEnroe. Surfing was never able to make that transition. But today there's so many surfers. There's 23 million surfers around the world. So there is definitely a market for competitive surfing amongst this niche audience. But what I've found over the last nearly 20 years since I've been speaking to large groups, I talk about the values that surfing can teach you about life, and everyone writes their code. It's a 12-line framework for affirmation and commitment and courage. And I speak to some of the biggest corporations in the world, massive companies. I speak to schools and famous universities, at jails, at rehab clinics, community groups, where there's just millions of people. People love surfing. Mm-hmm. They love the allure of surfing. They love what surfing represents to a layman: risk, uncertainty, sharks, danger, commitment, courage. They see it as this mystical endeavor. They don't see surfing like they see football, baseball, basketball. It has a different appeal and it has a different attraction. And when I tell stories about surfing, because that's essentially what I do, when I tell these stories about surfing, it's like they're listening to an Odyssean voyage. It's like they are transported from where they are to this unknown place. So surfing has this incredible attraction, and it amazes me that no one has made a film that represents this mystery and power that surfing has for us. And when I talk about it, I tell stories about hope, tell stories about resilience, perseverance, courage, interpersonal connectivity, risk, innovation. They're all these stories that one can tell about surfing. And in the mainstream, I'm talking in the entertainment that I talk about riding the biggest wave, or it's just so one-dimensional. But surfing is multi-dimensional. And it's interesting how when I see surfing through the eyes of these people who know nothing about surfing, I'm amazed by how amazing surfing is.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah. But I think, when you're so in it the way we've been, it's hard to see yourself, and I think, and this is something that I've found certainly as I've gotten older, because I think probably both of us, our worlds have expanded, and then we're in communication with people who are not surfers. I mean, I think when I first met you, everyone in my sphere was a surfer, and it was just a given, and we couldn't see ourselves. But in adult life, I guess, or late latter adult life, I've certainly met a lot of people who, never surfed in their entire life. And then when I hear them articulately, muse on what they think of surfing, I stop and go, wow, it really is something else.
Yeah.
Going back to that period though of busting down the door and kind of pioneering this idea of a sport, a tour, the potential for mainstream sort of acceptance or curiosity or what have you. Was there any guiding lights for you? Who was your hero in 1978?
Yeah, I didn't really have any sporting heroes. My hero was really my dad. My dad was a fundamental force in my life, as was my mom. But my dad loved sport. He loved the honor of sport in the sort of Rudyard Kipling fashion of honor, like old school type of honor. And for my father, he was like so stoked when I managed to make the state team. And of course, I had to have a blazer with a state badge on it. And then when I made the South African team, now you're a Springbok. It was like now you've sort of reached the top echelon of sport. And he was definitely this North Star and this guiding light for me in my life, and also definitely in my surfing career. In the competitive aspect, it was like winning is easy, but when you lose like a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And never ever complain about a judge's decision. That decision is inscribed in stone.
Mm-hmm.
And, when the heat's over, you go and shake the hand of the guy that you competed against and make sure he knows you're there and look him straight in the eye. So there was this kind of old school honor associated with how he looked at competition
Mm-hmm.
and surfing. Also, he really encouraged kind of having a humble attitude. He thought humility was really important, respect. He didn't like, there was my dad had like zero ego. I mean, he was a great sportsman in his youth, but he was about bringing people together. He was about positivity. He was about optimism. He was about hope. Here's a guy who had a terrible shark attack when he was a young guy, and he could have maybe won an Olympic gold medal.
And can I ask you about the attack? Because I know that about your father. Where was it, in Durban, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so my father was a South African junior swimming champion at 13 years old. He was a top swimmer. And his hero was Duke Kahanamoku.
Mm.
I mean, Duke was his hero and became my hero as well before I even knew that Duke was a surfer. He was a swimming guy.
Okay.
There's like gold medal Olympian swimmer. My dad loved Duke. And he was... So what happened was he volunteered to fight in the Second World War. He was a tail gunner on an American bomber called the Marauder. And they used to bomb northern Italy. They'd bomb the Italians and the Germans, North Africa and Italy. And then he came back from the war. He volunteered. He didn't have to go. He volunteered. Came back from the war, resumed his swimming career. And the 1948 Olympics were coming up. And he was out surfing. They used to surf on these little wooden boards at one of the Durban beaches. And Zambezi came up underneath him. And I've got a newspaper article from the front page. And my dad wrote about the attack. He wrote an article about the attack. How about this? Shortly after. He's a great writer, my dad. And he writes... The headline is, "I was lifted clear from the water." And my dad opens the article by saying, "It was an ideal day for surfing and for sharks." So the Zambezi came up underneath him, hit him so hard, lifted him clear in the water, and then in one bite shredded his arm from the shoulder all the way down to the wrist, ripped out all his muscles and tendons. And then he told me all his friends deserted him, and he said this black fin was circling him.
Wow.
And later in life, he never used to talk about it. Hey, Daddy, what happened to the shark? he said I was really lucky. The shark died of blood poisoning. So my dad, he had a sense of humor. He had a sense of humor about everything. But I suppose that's how he dealt with it. So that attack was, obviously life-changing for him. But he had no bitterness ever. He had no negativity ever. He never complained about it. He never said to me, would have, should have, could have, I could have won an Olympic gold medal, ever, ever. So that was never part of my my upbringing. He was just a happy, optimistic guy that loved, as much as he loved me and my brother and my cousin, as much as he loved to help us, he loved to help other kids. I heard stories, many decades later, I needed a board, your dad just gave me a board. I needed a outfit to go to a function, your dad just bought it for me. Or I came out of the water and I was standing there with my mom, and your dad walked up to me and said, I've been watching you, you're going to make the South African team. And the guy at the time said there was nothing further away from my ambition. I just didn't think I was good enough, but it gave me enough encouragement and enough motivation to actually make it, and I did make it. So he was like the godfather of our little beach society there on the Bay of Plenty. And he was just an amazing positive influence. And I think it just really influenced me in my life and, made me realize that, it's great to be successful and it's great to do things for self, but it's equally as satisfying to do things for others, to help others, to uplift others. And, throughout my career, I think I've done that. Even when I had instinct in the, when I throughout the 80s. I mean, I sponsored Tom Carroll to 2 world titles. I don't think Tom had won a contest before I started sponsoring Barton Lynch. And so, who knows how much help you actually gave those guys. But, it was wonderful to be able to connect with them and perhaps give them some of your wisdom or give them some of your mojo to help them on their journey.
I can attest to that because you were my sponsor in probably 1988, 89. You had Surfbeat, the shop in Santa Monica with your family. Brother, sister, mom were all involved. And I remember distinctly, you actually wrote out certain things that were sort of fundamentals of surfing, which is interesting because later you'd write books. But one of the ones was off the bottom, off the top. And that was this. And it's so interesting, Shaun, thinking about this because in so many ways, that's like the integrity of, that's the foundation of good surfing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to this day, Jamie, I mean, I call it hot off the bottom, hot off the top. That's the method. And sometimes today, there's a young pro guy struggling, and I said, hey, you need to go back to the basics. The foundation of surfing is carving. The foundation of surfing is power. Hard off the bottom, hard off the top. I said, everything around that is detail. Every single world title in surfing in the history of the world since Peter Townend won the first world title in 1976, it's been won the same way. Hard off the bottom, hard off the top. Everything around that, aerial, tubes, cuddies, whatever new maneuver, the foundation.
Yeah.
Power, speed, rhythm, aggression.
Yeah. And, the other thing you and I shared was writing I know you rode Spider Murphy's before from Durban, but we spent a lot of time riding Al Merrick's boards, and we're in Santa Barbara right now. He's right down the street. But it's interesting because Al's boards kind of asked for that kind of surfing, those lines. The boards really were designed for that type of surfing. They had that drive that really wanted you to put it on rail. And I think of it interestingly at this stage of life where to talk about metaphor of the barrel, that metaphor is really like integrity through life and these kind of timeless qualities that will serve you well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that the true test of a surfer is how he carves. Mm-hmm. It's not whether he can bust an air, what type of deep tube ride he can get. It's like the carve, that's the essence, that's sort of the sublime dimension of surfing is how a guy carves. Yeah, and it was really great to work with Al Merrick. I've had the opportunity, I counted them up the other day, I've worked with 44 shapers through my career. So I've worked with more shapers than anyone else on this planet. No one else is even close. And I'm talking in the pro zone. Mm-hmm. And Obviously some I've worked with some I've, got one board from, gone the shaping bay with them and gotten, one or two boards. But Al spent a lot of time with Al. I was the first pro that Al ever shaped a board for, first twin fin Al ever shaped in his life, he shaped for me. And, when I moved here and started working with him, Tom Curran was still a very young bloke. It was wonderful to kind of impart that energy and positivity to the whole little community here, because Rincon was very much sort of a black wetsuit long boards, and with Al and Kim Robinson, we fell in this with this pack of young Santa Barbara guys, and it was just great to be. And Al was just starting to get things going, and it was wonderful to be a part of that push here in Santa Barbara. And then decades later, I ended up moving here and living here.
When you were say the time of your world title and the years leading up to it and the years after, that period of being sort of in the peak competitive years, what was it like? This is going to sound very strange, but what was it like to be in your skin? What was it like to be in your head? What did it feel like to have that momentum and that incredible focus, right? Like just knowing exactly where you want to put all your energy.
Yeah, I was very focused and I was very committed to surfing, and I was very stoked, Jamie. I think that out of everyone on the tour in my realm, I surfed more, and I surfed more not because I wanted to get better. I surfed more because I loved it, and getting better was a byproduct of that. So I surfed endlessly. I loved connecting with the shapers and getting, my boards. And then I was always trying to, like, how can I create a better business opportunity? I always had, I suppose, an entrepreneurial mindset. I remember in the early days writing letters to try to get sponsorships, and then starting Instinct, and then doing, getting this sponsor and that sponsor. And those days it was like writing letters. And I don't think in my entire life I've actually had a phone call from someone and say, "Hey, Shaun, we'd love to meet about some sort of deal you're going to do." Every single commercial aspect of my surfing life has come from me writing a letter, picking up a phone, setting up a meeting. So, and surfing teaches you this independence. You just rely on yourself. And then also, I think it gives you this wonderful, gave me the sense of optimism and the sense of hope. Every surf session, walk down to the beach, you make that, and I've written about it, there's that beautiful transition when you walk along, and there's that moment of weightlessness when you move from one medium to another. It's such a romantic way to start every session, and every session for every surfer on the planet starts the same way. You leave the one medium on the other, and then you sort of half submerge, and then you pop out, and then you paddle out towards the horizon, towards that hope. And so surfing's given me so much, and I'm so grateful for it. And it's not just the art and the aspect of surfing. It's how you think about surfing and how you process surfing, and how surfing can impact you much more when you're out of the water than you're in the water. I mean, surfing for me, it's a continual, it speaks to me all the time. And I don't surf remotely as much as I used to. I had to surf every day. I was, Kelly Slater said, and Shane Dorian once said, "You're the most obsessed surfer I've ever seen. I've never seen someone spend so much time in the water." And this is when I'm in my 60s. Or mid-50s, late 50s, 60s. And I was always, I loved it. And I never, ever, not even once in my life, did I ever think I'm going to go and practice, ever. Practice was not a word that was in my vocabulary associated with surfing, ever. So I had a beautiful relationship with surfing through my career. I had a beautiful relationship after my career, and I have a beautiful relationship now, even though my surfing is not, remotely at the level that it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Was there a peak moment, if you were to reflect on your surfing life, whether this is at the height of your competitive years, whether it was after stepping off the tour, was there a moment where you felt most at home on a surfboard, happiest?
Looking back now, I think the time from 75 through 77 were just an amazing period. I won lots of events and, broke new ground, and, suddenly went from being an unknown to being a well-known surfer. That was a wonderful period. Creating the pro tour, and I was still at university then as well. I was still studying economics and management then, so there was quite a bit going on. And having so much fun with my father, and that was a beautiful time. Then 78 was a tough year for me. I won a few contests, but I was the defending world champion, and I got beaten in some early heats, and it really, really shook my confidence, made me disillusioned. 79, I bailed out of surfing. For the first 3 months of the year, I'd people had always said to me, "Oh, Shaun, you should be in the movies. You should be in the movies." All this bullshit. So eventually, I went, and for 3 months, I came to Los Angeles and I studied acting, and they were maybe the 3 most unhappy months of my life. And then I bailed out, got back on the tour, and I had a I had a pretty good run. And then this thruster came out.
Mm-hmm.
And Simon came out with the thruster in 81. Yeah. I saw him walk down the beach at Bell's, April 81. And Simon had shaped me a number of boards before then. And I walked up to him and I said, "Simon, what you got there?" He said, "Mate, this is a 3-fin thruster, and in 3 weeks you're going to be riding one."
Wow.
That's what he said to me.
Wow.
And, I would normally say, bullshit, Simon, you're such a wanker. And I had been a little bit late getting onto the twin fin in 78 after MR showed it at the end of 77 at Off the Wall. So I went, I'll just zip my lip. So he did amazingly well at Bell's. He won the event.
Mm-hmm.
Carving, just really beautiful surfing. And the next event's the Coke 2SM Surfabout, and he's from North Narrabeen. And I was in a real bad slump. I'd lost my father a couple months before, so I was like really directionless. And at Bell's, I got knocked out early. And Ian Cairns was on the tour then, and I went to Ian. I went, "Hey, Ian, let's develop a coaching relationship here." So I developed, it was the first professional coach in the history of the sport, Ian Cairns and me. And he set up a plan for me. And I went from last place. And now I'm up against Simon in the finals at the 2SM Coke Surfabout, which was then the biggest, most lucrative event in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 4 to 5 foot Narrabeen. I'm on a twin. He's on a thruster. He blitzes me in the final. In North Narrabeen, not many guys in the world then.
Mm-hmm.
Even goofies could have beaten Simon at Narra. Monday morning, I pick up the phone. I go, "Hey, Simon, I'd love to get a thruster."
Wow.
Now, I'm a big rival of Simon's.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, I was in the top 4 in the world. Simon now, he's won Bell's. He's won this event. So now he's like, this is his chance to win a world title.
Mm-hmm.
You go, "Sure, mate." So that was Simon's attitude. And when I got that thruster, I think it just turned my surfing around. I mean, I like twins, but it just turned my surfing around. It was unbelievable. So I think that period was really like rejuvenation for me. And that lasted actually a number of years. And then it's later in that year, 81, my father had written me and he said, "Hey, Shaun, I'm sponsoring this red hot young kid in South Africa." He said, "His name is Martin Potter. He is fantastic. He just reminds me of you when you were young." My dad writes me this letter. You know, in those days, like writing. And I come back, and then my dad passed away. Come back, and I got my thruster now, loving my thruster. And I end up against Martin at the Bay of Plenty, and he blitzes me. He's moving so fast on the Spider Murphy twin fin. And now I'm not riding Spider Sports because my dad, when I won the world title, started a surfboard business. He'd actually been in the business before. He had the biggest surfboard manufacturing business in South Africa for a few years. And then he restarted it. So now I'm off Spiders. And I see Martin Potter riding these Spiders. It's unbelievable speed. You know, in those days, a lot of competitions in small waves. It was hard for a big guy.
Yeah, for sure.
It was really hard. Emma had his twin fin thing wired, so he could ride any bloody size wave. I always struggled a bit when it was like 3 foot and under. So anyway, I see Martin. Martin's just surfing so fast and so good. So the next year I come back to South Africa and my father's passed away and sold the shop or closed the shop. And I go and ask Spider, "Hey, I'd love to get back on your boards again." So he makes me a twin. But he makes me this twin that's unbelievable. That is so fast. And suddenly I start winning events on this twin. And then I add a keel on it. So I ride my twin up to 5 feet. I ride my thruster like 5 to 10. And then in those days, like when you get to Hawaii, you were still on singles because we were nervous. We couldn't get the fin configuration right. So, you know, often you take a late drop at sunset and the board would just like cavitate back into the pit. I mean, it took a couple of years to sort that out. So that was another period of like really rejuvenation. And then 84, 85, I think I was still surfing really well. I had a big duel with Tom Carroll for the world title that year. I led the whole year, and then in the last event at Bell's, he beat me. And that was kind of my last run at the title. So there was like maybe 3 big periods there that I just had the greatest time. And even when I, after that, my last year on the tour was 89, I still had an amazing time. And I retired when I wanted to retire. You know, at the beginning of that year, I told everyone and made the announcement. So each stop during that 89, they had a little event for me and, you know, gave me an award or whatever. So it was my last year on tour was really fun. I never looked behind me. I never ever thought I should have, would have, could have. I never ever thought I should have stayed on the world tour longer. I ended it just under my terms when I wanted to. But then the whole thing changed with pro surfing, and they moved towards good waves.
Yes, the dream tour.
So I would have loved to have, I think I could have got another 10 years out of my career then, because I know that when I was surfing at J Bay and I was 60, I wanted Kelly Slater. I wanted Joel Parkinson. I wanted Mick Fanning. I would have been head to head with them in a heat. They wouldn't give me a wild card. I didn't ask for a wild card, but I thought that like when I see now the way Kelly's surfing in his 50s, I'm going, I can understand that. It's the power in the calf stays with you. You got no chance when it's 3 to 4 foot and you're going to be busting airs. It ain't going to happen. Yeah. But you know, like J-Bay was not really away for air until Philippe Toledo got that 110 a few years back. But the longevity today, I think it's great. I mean, these guys can have a long career. Like Jordy Smith could have another 5 years.
Yeah.
So things have changed, and but I had a great career. I was stoked on my career. I ended it where I wanted to, and it was a wonderful, wonderful life, a wonderful experience, and it set me up for my next wave.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's high points in your surfing life, low points in your surfing life.
I think the low point was kind of the realization in '78 that surfing wasn't going to give me that mainstream, not so much mainstream acceptance, but it wasn't going to be this, I wasn't going to be a mainstream athlete.
Mm-hmm.
It was always going to be a niche.
Yeah.
And I really, had these big aspirations, and it didn't turn out. So I think that was the low point. But when I realized that, what was important wasn't that acceptance, wasn't the money, it was the surfing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think I came back with a new attitude, a new style, and after I kind of bailed out at the beginning of '79, went to acting school, realized it wasn't for me, came to Japan to compete, and I won an event there in teeny surf. I'd had got on this twin fin. It's the first time I competed on a twin fin, '79. So the whole of '78, I was on singles, getting smacked around by MR.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got on the twin fin, kaboom. So it was like a rejuvenation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I was off and running.
Mm-hmm. So Shaun, we've talked about our very fortunate lives, our very lucky lives in surfing. You and I share loss on a very large scale.
Terrible.
I'm trying to find a graceful way to move over into talking about that.
Yeah, so that was it was devastating to lose my dad young at 57. That really rocked my world. And then losing my son at 15 and a half on the 24th of April, 2006, that was 100 times more devastating. And there's no way to deal with it other than just experience that rawness of it, that like a hot knife being stabbed deep into your heart and deep into your soul. It was just very, very unbelievably difficult. And it's the worst club to be a member of, the club where parents have lost children. And I mean, you've experienced, losing someone you love. It's just the horror and the desolation and that spiral, that downward spiral into this sort of deep, dark place. But surfing helped me climb out of that darkness of despair. And now I think I have the ability to help a lot of people. The first few months, it's just, there's nothing you can do for people. It's just, you just got to like tough out that horror. But surfing helped me. It really did. And you look back and you try to rationalize it and you try to make sense of it, and you can't. There's you can't make sense of it. But certain things happened to me. One of them was after our loss. It was very tough for both of us. I was actually in the United States. I was here, and I'd had that morning, I was having an interview with this group from Japan had flown out to interview me for a surfing magazine. And they came to the office, and I took them down to Hammond's, my local break here. And it was a beautiful day. So it's April. Crisp, beautiful early spring day. But I just felt like something was wrong. I felt this coldness. It was really, really strange. And it just felt like something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And when you walk down to Hammond's, you walk through this beautiful eucalyptus grove. And I remember stopping by this eucalyptus on the way out. And I said to the guy, you know, there's nothing more important in life than a positive attitude. He hadn't asked me a question. I just said that to him. And then I walked up and I got in my car, and then I got the terrible phone call from my wife. It was just horrible. So I didn't even have my passport was out of date. I knew I had to get back to South Africa because I knew my wife wouldn't make it. And I had to go down to the federal, but it was beyond a nightmare. I managed to get on a pass. I managed to get a new passport, and then the trip was just horror. It was just the most harrowing time. And I got to South Africa, and I got to Kala, and it was just so terrible. And then Carla had to go to hospital, and I remember, I don't know how long afterwards, a friend walked into the also lost a son the year before, and walked into the hospital and said, I have a message from Matthew. And one bolt of lightning hit that hospital room. That hospital, not even one cloud in the sky, one bolt, bang, shook it to its foundation, not even one cloud in the sky.
Wow.
And shortly before, the day Matthew passed away, Matthew died, in the morning, I phoned Carla, and he picked up the phone. Hey, Dada, how you doing? He said, check this out. I want to read you something. And he read me this beautiful essay, beautiful words about surfing and tube riding. It was like mind-blowing. And he had the words in there, the light shines ahead. You know, like when you're deep inside the tube and you know that light. And I went, wow, Matthew, this is so beautiful. Where'd you get this from? I thought he pulled it out of it. He said, I wrote it for my essay class today.
Wow.
In English, I mean, because Carla had taken him for one semester to my old school in South Africa where I grew up. Just to have him experience what I experienced. And wow, I said, those words are beautiful. And he goes, goodbye, Dad, I love you. Goodbye, Matthew, I love you. And then Carla got on the phone. And then the Japanese journalist came. We walked down the beach of Hammonds, walked back, and then, I got this horrible phone call. So now we're in the hospital. This one bolt of lightning hits. And my friend said, I've got a message for Matthew. Kaboom. He wants to say, I'm sorry. It was an accident. And because he played this game, the kids were playing called the choking game. They play with their school ties. It's just a terrible thing. It goes around schools. It's just. So, who knows whether it was peer pressure. I don't know. We'll never know what happened, really. So now he says this, and this lightning bolt hits, and it was like a message.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of a turning point. And then I'd go and during the day, often I'd just go to my local shul, my synagogue, where I had my bar mitzvah. And I'd sit there, and sometimes I'd be the only person in there. And in every shul, in every synagogue around the world, you have, it's called the Torah. It's the 5 books of Moses. And right above, they're contained in this area which has a door or a curtain. It's called the Ark. And right above the Ark is a lamp. And it's called Ner Tamed. This is the lamp that never goes out. It represents the faith and the hope and the soul of the Jewish people. It never goes, and I'd sit there and I'd look at this narrative and I'd look at this and I think about what Matthew wrote. I think about the lightning bolt. And, when you're in that state, you sort of piece the shattered parts of your life together in a way that makes sense to you as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And started maybe on a process of not understanding, but more a process of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get into that would've, should've, could've, what if, the what if downward spiral. So I just came to this time of acceptance. And that is so hard to accept the enormity of it. You try to close your mind off, but you can't. And like you wake up early in the morning and that as you wake up, it just comes back to bite you.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is just a burning poker stabs you again, and you can't really believe it's happened. You're in that sort of half waking, half sleeping state. It's just like this black phase. So I think I started forward, whatever that was. I saw a psychiatrist at the time, and he said, "Shaun, you got to understand, time is your friend." He said, "You won't understand it now, but you will understand it. That time is your friend."
Yeah, for sure.
You don't understand it, but time is your friend.
Yeah.
And I told you I was the most Stoke surfer in the world. I thought I was the most Stoke surfer in the world, but my Stoke had gone out.
Yeah.
The flame above the Torah didn't go out, but my Stoke had gone out. And I had a mate from school, Graham Taylor. We used to sit next to each other. I was at a Jewish school. He was a non-Jewish guy, but we were like the only two surfers in the school. So we used to hang out. He was a good bloke. And they kept phoning him, "Hey, Shaun, I got to take you surfing. Shaun, I got to take you surfing." I don't want to go. It went on for quite some time. And then he said, "Shaun, I want to do it." And I went, "Okay." So I got a board and wetty, and he said, I'm going to take you to a place you've never surfed before. So we go up the north coast and north of Durban. And Durban's on the east coast, so the sun rises. It rises up out of the Indian Ocean. So we walk down the stairs and we walk towards the break. It's perfect. 4 to 5 feet, no one out. And that African sun is just boiling up from it looks like it's boiling up through the water, boiling up, lifting up. I can feel that sun. I can feel it on me. And it's just sort of represents that sunrise every morning, just represents that hope.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm not thinking that, but subconsciously I think I'm absorbing that.
Yeah.
And I walk down the beach and it's perfect offshore, and my friend and I paddle out together. And I remember I've written about this before, that I'm crying. And the wave comes to me and I push through it and it just washes my tears away.
Mm.
And I don't know, does it really wash your tears away? But whatever it is, it's salt and it's like your tears. So it feels like it's washing them away, literally and figuratively. And I paddle out, and the next wave does the same, and paddle out, and the next wave does the same. And I'm sitting there waiting for my wave. I can just feel, I can just feel Matthew's presence with me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lose someone, I think their spirit is very strong. I mean, with time, I think the spirit and that power dissipates, but the spirit's very strong. I can feel him there with me. And I catch that first wave. And I can feel Matthew with me, and it feels a little bit better. Matthew's name in Hebrew means gift from God. And I get another wave. Feels a bit better. Get another wave and it feels a bit better. And then I paddle out to my friend. And I say, "What's the name of this break?" sunrise. How about that?
Hmm.
And I think, that sort of brought my life to a place where I could start walking forward again. I think through surfing, through sunrise,
Mm-hmm.
through the light shines ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And it all sort of connected together. And then I think it gave me the power to move forward and power to start doing more stuff. Brought out my first book, Surface Code. All in that same year, 2006. And then I connected with my friend Jeremy Gosh, and I said, hey, we've got to do this movie. And I wrote a check, and end of that year, we all flew out to Hawaii, interviewed like 31 people. And through that year, we put the film together, got some funding, and then we released it at the Santa Barbara Film Festival in February 2008. And I felt that getting involved with projects, especially worthwhile, inspirational products, just helps you.
Yeah.
It helps you deal with the pain, helps you deal with the grief. It's not that it takes your mind off it. It just makes you feel just more connected again, connected to a new life, because you've left your old life behind. You have a new life now. And then coming out with a movie, and the movie became popular, and my book became popular. And then I'm sitting in the lineup at Rincon. And a guy paddles up to me and he goes, hey, Shaun, I'd love you to come and talk at my school. Talk about your book at my school. We've got a small school here in Santa Barbara. It's the smallest school in the county. We've only got 80 students, high school students. But I think they'd like your book. I go in there and I talk to the kids. And I go, Surface Code's my code. I wrote it, 12 lines. Every line begins with I will, 105 words, 15 minutes. My words give me power. What about all of you writing your words? Just like that. That was another path. So now hundreds of thousands, maybe it's millions of people around the world, they write the code. 12 lines. Every line begins with I will. And it's a new path.
Mm-hmm.
When people write their 12 lines, it's a new path. Academics have studied this process. It's amazing. It's a process of change, a process of transformation, of commitment. And now I share this process with some of the biggest corporations in the world, with some of the most elite universities, Kellogg, Northwestern, USC, University of Oregon, University of San Diego, just all sorts of Missouri State, this University of South Africa, University of Melbourne. It's wonderful. I tell some surfing stories. Everyone writes their code. And then they go home with a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do now. And I tell you what, this is a wonderful endeavor for me that warms my heart whenever I do it. It's a beautiful experience. It's like when I've gone surfing and I've had this sort of caught some amazing waves, and you have that like afterglow.
Yes.
You have that
Great
like,
way of describing. Yeah.
you have that like afterglow.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. So this little process, this code process that surfing gave me,
Mm-hmm.
because when I wrote the code for the first time, I was asked to do something to inspire a group of kids by Glenn Henning, who started Surfrider Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
because Rincon was having an environmental issue. And I wrote the code to inspire kids so we could raise money, and ultimately, we raised money and solved the problem. And I wrote it to inspire. And now I use that same framework for people to inspire themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would love for you to read the code, or maybe you can do it from memory, but could you do the 12?
No, I'll read it for you.
Okay.
So I tell people, when you write your code, you got to keep your code and keep it with you, because your words can give you great power.
And you're reaching into your pocket right now. I love this. It's in your pocket. It's in your wallet.
I keep my code with me.
Okay.
And, when things go sideways in life, as they will go sideways in life, every single one of us is going to have an unbelievably tough time. And every single one of these lines I wrote has got a special connectivity to my life. Like, I'll never turn my back on the ocean. Yes. Where did that come from? Yeah, the Hawaiian Beach Boys say something really similar, because the ocean's a dangerous place. And, but for me, this is about my dad. Here's a guy, prime of his life, shark attack, didn't win his gold medal, but still always loved the ocean and taught me how to surf 100 yards away from where he had a terrible attack. I'll always paddle back out. I mean, this applies to you and me. Resilience, perseverance, hope.
Yeah.
More hope. I'll always paddle back out, because we're paddling back out to get the next wave. I'll take the drop with commitment. Think about riding Banzai, paddling over that edge. I'll know that there'll always be another wave. I mean, that's hope too. That's fundamental hope. And also, like sharing. You don't have to be desperate for the next wave. And that's very hard sometimes when, you're sitting waiting for a wave and someone slips around on your inside. You got to try to quell the aggro. I'll realize that all surfers are joined by one ocean. When you sit there in the lineup and it's kind of a orderly lineup and everyone's taking it in turns, and you realize that we're connected, and certainly as part of the human tribe, I'll paddle around the impact zone. I tell my son, hey, there's no shortcuts in life. There's no shortcuts. And for me, that is really, when I used to go and surf Rocky Point, like you've surfed Rocky Point, and some guys like do the rock dance. You walk 20 yards down the beach, you jump into that little rip, no cuts, no staff, and you just kind of float out there. Okay, so maybe this other guy's gotten out 30 seconds before you. I'll never fight a riptide. It's the first lesson my dad ever taught me about surfing. Never fight a riptide. You get in the riptide, just flow with it. And also, it's a wonderful metaphor for life too. These inexorable trends that run through life that you can never fight against. They'll drown you. I'll watch out for other surfers after a big set. Man, I think about riding sunset. Sunset especially. Papa guy wipes out, he gets washed in. Sunset, you just jam. You are those sets are unloading on you relentlessly. And, you're down there at the bottom there trying to climb your leg rope, and you're hoping that if things go sideways, someone's going to pull you in. And that is that's fundamental, to watch out for others. I'll pass on my Stoke to a non-surfer. I mean, I pass on my Stoke, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people, and I love doing it. I love telling people about the surf experience. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be a surfer, but they can, in a small way, experience the wondrous things that surfers have experienced. This is the funniest one of all, and this is the one that I often get the most comments about. I will ride and not paddle into shore. Guys come up to me like, hey, Shaun, I can't believe I was so late for my meeting, but I read your code and I knew I couldn't just paddle in. And also it's about, and I tell my boy this, hey, you start something, finish it.
Yeah.
You start something, finish it. It's like when I think, when I finished my time on the tour, and I love my time on the tour, I finished it elegantly. I didn't look behind me. You start that session in such a beautiful way, like I spoke about. You do that little leap, and then you paddle out with so much hope, and I can't get a wave, I'm paddling in. No way. Yeah. No way. I've never just paddled in. I love this one. I will catch a wave every day, even in my mind. I love that mind surfing, that sometimes, you can't get out there or it's no surf, but you can just, You just close your eyes and you think of that wave.
Absolutely.
And we've all got the wave we think about,
Yes.
or a few waves we think about.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, I will honor the sport of kings. You know, when we started, Rabbit and Ian and PT, me, my cousin Mark, we thought surfing was disrespected. And I promise you, and I know we changed it. We changed the perception of surfing. And that's why today every single executive wants to state that he's a surfer, whether he works at Google and high tech. They're all in San Francisco. We're all surfers. It's like today, surfing is a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
And in the hierarchy, people respect you more. If you're a surfer, then you're a pro football player or a pro basketball. No, I'm a pro surfer. It's like respect, baby.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see how that mindset and that perception has changed.
Beautiful, Shaun. We've hit on everything I wanted to talk about, but is there anything that we've missed that you want to share?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I want to share. Last year, about this time, I saw all this disruption in the surfing industry and this disruption in the world. And I saw all these brands, these famous brands that had been started with a pure motive to create an income stream so you could surf more, being disrespected, being sold at massive discounts, being sold in funky stores. Well, when I say funky stores, being sold in distribution that doesn't relate to surfing, making products that weren't surf products but just to generate revenue, companies losing their way, losing connection with their tribe. And I thought, wow, maybe there's a way to do something differently. Maybe there's a way to create a brand that's built around social purpose. Not my flag about sustainability is bigger than yours, and my flag is made of a fabric that will, you can, after you've finished using it, you can cook it in the oven and you can eat it. A brand that's focused around what's really important in life, using surfing as a vehicle for empowerment, inspiration, for bringing people together and connecting them again. And I'm going, wow, maybe I can restart Instinct, because Instinct came from a pure place, came from a logo that my dad developed from a picture of me. I called it Instinct because the best moments in surfing come from riding inside the tube. The best tubes happen on Instinct. Maybe I can connect it to my mission of creating a positive wave of hope and purpose around the world through the values of the Surfers Code. Maybe I can bring it all together and create a social purpose brand that can continue to generate this positive wave. And when I connected up with a great partner, went down to a little trade show, got a reaction from people, and now I'm bringing people together through this brand, which is so fun. When I talk to kids, I talk about the origin and development of Instinct. I get kids to write their code, and Instinct's funding this outreach. Yes, I also have a part of my outreach, I call it double shaka. Every time I do a paid event, I do a free event for a school, prison, rehab clinic, university. And sometimes I'll get the company to nominate it. And sometimes I'll get the company who've hired me to do a outreach to a school. I did an event in Huntington for the biggest data center. They make data centers, data, everyone wants data. Each data center is $250 million. They got like 56 data centers around the country. And I got them to give a book, one of my books, to every single student at the graduating class at Huntington Beach High School. I'd spoken at Huntington Beach High School. So it's so fun to be able to bring in altruism and purpose into the equation, because I firmly believe, business built on the theory, profit, sales, and growth, the golden triangle, profit, sales, and growth. I firmly believe that purpose is the new profit, that committed intention to realize meaningful aims for yourself and for the broader community. There's purpose. Purpose is what is at the core of everything. So this is what I try to do now, is build this wave of purpose. And it's so fun, Jamie. It's so fun to just look at business differently. And when I was surfing, I never ever thought of it as practice. And now, with what I'm doing now, it's not like I'm in business.
It's so great.
It's like I'm building this wave.
Yeah.
And building this tribe of people who want to do the right thing.
That I love hearing this, Shaun, because I think one of the things that most good surfers share in common is just coming to something at a very young age, most likely, with so much love. And I think the idea of sort of following this thing that was before we even really knew what work was, right? Like we started riding waves and it was fun, and then we kept it going, and then it kept going and going and going through the decades. And so to see the light in your eyes right now as you tell me this, I've often thought, like, one of the unfortunate things about having such the lucky lives that we've had through early on as surfers, as pro surfers, is if it ever ends, like, God forbid, because it's the bar is set very, very high. And to see you getting the same stoke here now with that,
same stoke.
Yeah,
it's really, I get so. I get so stoked. And when these kids write these codes, or when, it doesn't matter, you don't have to be a kid. Anyone, they look inside themselves. So they've heard some cool stories about surfing. What have these stories done? Surfing has impacted, for some people, the future trajectory of their lives. People write to me and tell me, this was changed my life. This is transformational. And what has changed your life? Not Shaun Tomson. Shaun Tomson's told a few stories. People have written their code and shared it. And it creates this impetus for people to make positive transformational change. And it's wonderful. And it's all fueled by Stoke. It's fueled by the same thing that we felt when I rode my first wave almost exactly 60 years ago. I rode my first wave in June 65. And that Stoke, that feeling, when you get up on the board for the first time and you see the world differently, and you got that fire and that Stoke, and wow, I want more. That feeling of like control and just being above it, just being like above the world. You're above the world. I get the same feeling. When a kid writes to me, and check this out. The day before yesterday, I go and give a talk at UCSB for Surfrider Foundation, and also for the Isla Vista chapter of Surfrider Foundation and the UCSB Surf Club. There's about 100 students there, and I get this letter from this girl. Hello. I was at yesterday's UCSB talk for Surfrider and was so inspired by your talk and enjoyed everything you talked about. I just wanted to say thank you for the talk and wanted to share my code that I came up with. I'll be more present in the moment. I'll be myself. I'll stop stressing about my past and future. I will be more mindful. I will appreciate and notice little things in life. I will not take things for granted. I will be kind to myself and others. I will stop overthinking. I will work hard. I will be selfish when I need to be. I will stand up for myself. I will understand life is not linear. Thank you again for the inspirational talk. So I get these all the time. They are so beautiful.
Nice.
And it's so amazing. I've come to understand, James, that when you give something to someone, you know who the real recipient is, not the person you're giving
Yeah.
to. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's just it just warms my soul. And you've had loss, I've had loss, and it's almost like a I don't know, salve on the soul.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful.
And it's so interesting too, Shaun, because thinking about, I mean, what you're getting at is being of service. And when you think about when I met you, what our pursuits were, and you certainly realized it in ways that I never did, but the sort of selfishness of, there's a kind of selfishness and narcissism of being a pro athlete.
No, there is.
And to come around later in life and to go where you are. I mean, there's the great Muhammad Ali quote. He said something like, if I'm the same person at 40 as I was at 20, then I lost 20 years of my life, or I wasted 20 years of my life. And, to come to this place is a great evolution.
No, it's been a great evolution. I'm very happy with this path. It's very enriching. It's very enlightening. I mean, I learned something, when I read these codes, it's like you're looking deep into the soul of people. And then you see the impact that they create by writing it and sharing it. Like, I'm going to post up this girl's, Kaylee, I'm going to post up her code, and, tens of thousands of people are going to see it, and she's going to give them inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to go, cool, well, why don't I do this? And I'm hoping, you see, this is my goal here, James. I would like every high school student at some period during their high school, it's either when they start middle school in 7th grade or when they start high school in 9th grade, write the code, 12 lines. Every line beginning with I will. And then when they're freshmen in university, it's simple, it's free, it just takes 15 minutes. And it's very cathartic, it's very connective, it's very motivating.
Mm-hmm.
There have been numerous studies done on how establishing goals and commitments motivates people. And the probability of success is magnified if you write it down, as opposed to just thinking about it. When you write it down, and then when you share it, you create this wave of accountability, a lot of accountability, and that was being mentioned in a couple of academic studies. So this code's got a lot of power. And next year, I'm re-releasing Surface Code, my first book. It's going to be the 20th anniversary. So it's going to be fun to tie this re-release of the book through my mission with the Double Shaka program and Instinct. It's going to be really fun. A lot ahead.
Very nice, Shaun. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
James, it's a pleasure. You've always been such a gentleman. I love the way you surf, hard off the bottom, hard off the top. And it's wonderful that through the show, you're inspiring people in the same way that I love to inspire as well.
Thank you. Soundings is brought to you by the Surfers Journal and is produced by me, Jamie Brissick, and Jonathan Shiflett. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Our theme song is Give Me a Wave by Oscar Matsumiya and Paz Lenchanting. The Surfers Journal is a reader-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from Costa Sunglasses, FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Patagonia, Rainbow Sandals, Vans, and Yeti. The journal is published bi-monthly. If you haven't done so yet, I encourage you to visit surfersjournal.com and subscribe. Thank you for listening to Soundings, and until next time.